Hi everyone, I have a fun little fluid art project to share with you today. I'll be taking these acrylic paint mixtures and mixing them with a lot of resin, and the finish is very unique. So let's get started. I have my base layer ready to go along with 4 other acrylic paint mixtures, and for the last one, I'm just going to show the whole process. I have this 3-ounce cup filled with a very small amount of Floetrol. Now I'm adding in equal parts black acrylic paint. Normally for my fluid art, I don't thin it out with too much water, but since I'm adding so much resin, I want this mixture to be very, very thin. So I'm going to add in a lot of water to counteract the thickness of the resin. And you're not supposed to mix water with resin, but it creates this really unique textured, almost glimmering finish. I think it's from the resin crystallizing, but I love the look. So let's go for it. So I'm just mixing this very well, adding a little bit of water and checking the consistency. And that is not quite thin enough. So we're gonna add in a bit more water. I want it to be pouring off the mixing stick as I lift it up. If you've seen any of my previous YouTube videos, I have done resin mixed with acrylic paint in the past, but this time I'm using a lot more resin. It's about 60% resin to 40% acrylic paint mixture. So that should just about do it. We have all of our acrylic paint mixtures ready to go. Now we will add in the resin. And I will be using magic resin. I've mixed equal parts A and B, and I let it sit out for about 5 minutes to get rid of some bubbles. So in total, I have 7 ounces of resin, and I'll be adding it to all of the paint mixtures, including the base. But resin is expensive, so I'm not adding that much to the base. I am mainly focusing on these 5 main colors. I'm just roughly estimating how much each one needs, trying to pour it equally. But it doesn't need to be perfect. I can thin out any of the mixtures further with water if I need to. So it's looking like I have about 2 ounces of each of the colors in those 3-ounce cups. I'll just add the remaining of the resin to our base layer and we will mix and see if the consistency is correct. Mixing resin with acrylic paint can be tricky. I don't think you're supposed to mix it with the water and paint. So sometimes it can get really thick and almost slimy. So you need to mix it well and then add in any water if it's too thick. So I can see here when I'm not blocking it with my gloved hand, it's a little bit too thick. So I'm just going to thin it out further with a tiny bit of water, and that should do the trick. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all of these mixtures, and we will get to the pour. I've poured out my base layer. You can see at the bottom here, there's a bit of texture. I may have not mixed it quite well enough, but I'm not too worried. It's going to be a textured finish anyways. So let's pour on our colors here. I've layered all 5 acrylic paint mixtures in this pour cup and we will get to pouring. I'm just going to do a nice simple line pour here. It's pouring very well. The lines are looking straight. I can see even some sneaky little cells popping through the middle there. And when you pour it on, it looks nice and smooth and glossy. It does not dry this way. I think the resin reacts with the water and it almost causes it to crystallize, giving it a really glimmering, unique finish. I absolutely love experimenting mixing acrylic paint with resin. Depending on the ratio, you get very different dried results, and it's always so fun to see how it reacts and what the final piece looks like. We have it all poured on. Now we will just spread it all over the canvas, one corner at a time. It's moving a bit slower than my typical Floetrol acrylic paint mixtures, but that resin is heavy and sticky. Just getting it corner by corner here, and it's pouring really nicely. You can see the lines are maintaining their shape. They're not getting all jagged anywhere. So far, so good. We'll just pour it over the last corner here, and that's it. Just need to do a few more little adjustments to make sure this edge is fully covered. And I'll pull it back into the center so it's not pooling anywhere. And I think that should just about do it for the pour. So here's the piece freshly poured. Again, it's going to dry very different, but you can see it almost looks sandy and grainy in area. We have some texture popping out in the corner here. Again, it's going to dry very differently, so I'm going to let it sit out for 24 hours and we will take a look at the final results. And here we have the final results. It is all dry, and you can see it looks a lot different. Let's take a closer look here. It's definitely not your typical resin finish that is glossy and smooth. You can see we have a lot of texture, and my favorite part, it absolutely glistens, almost like an agate stone. You're either gonna love this finish or hate it. I absolutely love it. It actually looks even better in person, but that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.